All right, hey guys. Yeah, this is Tio Guaze, and want to thank you guys for joining me today. I have a really cool guest. Her name is Jaynee Weber. Jaynee, you want to say hi to the audience?
Hi, audience. I would be remiss if I failed to mention my better half, Thomas Gonzalez, who's also with us as well.
Very cool. So yeah, so we have both Jaynee Weber and Thomas Gonzalez, and we're going to talk about again just how they're adjusting. This is the first musician that we've had on the show, and I'm always curious to get different perspectives and to learn things from people from different backgrounds. And so, Jaynee, how about you tell us a little bit about your background?
Thank you for asking. Well, I was raised in a very rural part of Louisiana and just a very sheltered life. As far as I knew, the only path to walk was Catholicism, and that's what I was taught at an early age. And then at a certain point in my life, I experienced what you might consider a bit of a spiritual awakening, and it served as a catalyst for where I am now, of course. But in that moment, it made me receptive to other paths. And during the course of my basically spiritual investigation on life, I started attending this amazing yoga studio that had classes in a form of singing from India, and it's called kirtan. And the purpose behind it is to simply tune into the sacred vibrations of the universe. And the side effect is just like a tremendous sense of peace and calmness because by the teaching says that by speaking the mantra, your consciousness actually starts to merge with the mantra itself. So Om Shanti Shanti is a mantra of peace. So if you're chanting this mantra of peace, then your consciousness, you yourself start to feel peaceful. Your mind feels peaceful. Your heart opens. And from there, I came to know my own spiritual teacher, who is a Hindu slash. He's revered by the Hindus. He's revered by the Muslims, but he never said that he was part of any religion. He said, "My religion is love," and that's kind of what pulled me to him. His name is Shirdi Sai Baba, and so through his teachings, I came to just lean more into my musical path, and basically became more and more aware that I needed to share my light with the world. And so for the past several years, since about 2014, I've been sharing my music through Central Texas, through spiritual centers, yoga centers, churches, and just the messages is of peace and love and divine connection. And that, is wonderful, and I feel very honored to do that. But also, I have wanted to work on getting my music across the world. And so one vehicle for that is through getting placements in film and placements in television programs with music. But that type of music is a very different animal.
Right.
And so there's very specific criteria for that. And
Mhm.
so my husband and I, for the past 2 years, have been studying the industry, and the lingo is just sync music or sync placement. Is how it's phrased. And so we've been, since the lockdown, we've really leaned into actively creating content with the goal in mind for sync placement.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So that was actually what I was going to lead into is what have you been doing since the lockdown? How is, how do you get sync placement? So that's sort of, tell us a little bit about the content you're creating
Sure.
and kind of
Well, that's an excellent question, and thanks for asking.
Mhm.
So I would say, like anything in life, it's about building relationships. And of course, it goes without saying that as an artist, you have to cultivate your art. You have to study with the teachers that will put you in a position to put your best foot forward. And so it's not like something that you can just walk into without, the preparation time and all of that. But that being said, once you reach that level of kind of artistic expression where you feel like, okay, I'm ready, I don't get choked up when I sing, or I don't lose my place on the guitar. I think I'm ready to, take that next leap. Well, then, the next thing is to find your tribe. And just like anything else, there are so many people that are coming together on the internet through social platforms like LinkedIn. No, that's a wonderful way to meet the business people in the industry, like the executives of the different corporations that actually would potentially hire you to, put your song out there. But then there's also Facebook, because Facebook has a lot of groups that are just, as I'm sure you know, that are dedicated to certain subjects. And so there's a lot, I belong to about 5 groups on Facebook. So from there, that's where you meet your collaborators. And so for us, I've had one placement, and it was several years ago. It was in a film, the indie film, The Red Tent. I think there was a book called The Red Tent that was also like a commercial version of another piece of film. But at any rate, so I had that placement, but at the same time, I wanted to have more. And so one way to do it is to connect with other artists that are already getting the placements. And so through the Facebook groups, I've met several collaborators, and also, of course, before COVID, I went to 2 different agents. Let's see, there was a music licensing agency that put on 2 conferences that were dedicated to sync music out in Los Angeles. But the amazing thing now with COVID is that a lot of those same conferences that you would have to get on a plane and go somewhere and pay lots of money are now free.
Right.
So for any musician that's listening right now, there is a conference in France every year in June, MIDEM, MIDEM. And up until COVID, you had to go to France to connect with that. And now that whole conference, which officially was live the first 4 days of June, is now online, and it's free for everyone.
Wow.
So you can literally go to their platform. You can take a class with some of the most incredible teachers of the industry, And so I've, of course, I obviously didn't go to France, but
Right.
I've taken a few of those classes as well. So.
No, that's really cool, and I think that this is the time to be learning, to be collaborating. What are you seeing with artists that are that you're trying to collaborate with? Is there or is it easy to form those relationships as far as, hey, I want to, I need you to produce this, or I need a backup singer or whatever, is that easy to find those people that want to collaborate on your project, or are you having to collaborate on their projects? How does that typically work?
Well, I would say I would probably liken it to the dating process.
Mm-hmm.
It is a certain type of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when you're putting yourself out in the dating world, you want to connect with people that have the same vibe as you. you know, that you can communicate with, that you admire them, you respect them, you know, presumptively. And so similarly, I would say that's kind of the mindset to have with music. You know, the thing is like not every artist that is out there is going to be somebody that wants to work with you, and vice versa. And so one thing to make it easy is just don't take it personal, because not everyone that you reach out to is going to say yes. And I would say from a personal standpoint, it's like 1 out of every 5 people that I ask will say yes.
Okay.
And some artists are just really, they have a really fixed sound. They just want to be independent, or they have existing relationships with other collaborators, and that, that's just what they want to focus on at this time. And so they don't want to add another project. Some artists, it's just like, well, you have this sound, and I identify as more of an artist that produces this sound. And so I can't, cross that with you. But what I would say that a lesson in that I learned is, because I kind of had more of like a folky sound on my own when I was creating music, but I found this incredible synchronicity with this artist who does electronic dance music. And
Okay.
I would have never thought, like, in a million years that would work. But the other thing is that she herself is a very gifted producer. So when you get in a studio situation and you're working with someone who knows how to bring out the best in you, sometimes the difference in the contrast actually works together. If you have someone that can, like, basically know how to speak your language and then speak the language of the music that you're creating.
Ah, okay, yeah. So contrast. I like that. That's I think a very interesting thing to do, and that's what a lot of good music is. It's about bringing, different influences, right? Different styles of music together, and collaborating like that. So that's really really cool. Have you tried anything as far as like advice for trying to get relationships with executives? Is there anything you've done or tried that has worked well, or anything you've seen done or heard done that I know that you are a lot of artists, have you within the anything that you've learned from the conferences that you've attended, as far as advice you would give to musicians that are trying to connect with executives, especially now?
Oh, sure. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah, you're
Well,
welcome.
years ago, I was told by someone who had basically started off as a towel boy in some fancy gym in LA, and now he's getting like all these crazy placement deals, and has for years. And his secret was initially that he would just start finding out who the major players were on LinkedIn through research. And now the internet, you just Google, like, who are the music executives of this organization or that organization. And then all of a sudden you just kind of build from there. But he said, just start asking people to be your friend on LinkedIn, and just kind of leave it at that. And so I took his advice, and at first it was a little challenging, because, if you just have like 3 or 4 connections, maybe 1 out of every 12 people is going to accept you as a connection. But don't give up hope, because, like, eventually that's going to build. It's just like a snowball effect. Like, for me, I think I now have like over 400 contacts, that just, and again, it was just like, okay, I see that this person had a placement in this particular movie, and I really like that vibe of that music, and so then I would go from there. The other advice that I was given was, look at what's called IMDb.
Okay,
And
yeah.
they list all of the music on the certain films. They list the music supervisors. And so that's where you can get names. However, just, I know it's fun to kind of figure out, like, oh, I can see who the music supervisor is for my favorite HBO show, and I really want to hit them up. I would suggest, be cool. You know, think about how you feel when somebody approaches you with like an MLM, a multi-level marketing thing, where they're like
Right.
they're all about their pitch, and you know they just want to like kind of sell a bunch of products to you that you don't need. Just you know, resist that urge.
Right. Right.
And so you know, so another tip is I know a lot of musicians, the first thing they want to do is like send someone a SoundCloud link or disco link. And I would say that is like the worst thing to do to music supervisor because they consider that to be like spam. You
Yeah.
know, you could just imagine that some of them have like 300 unsolicited emails a day, and every single artist is like trying to convince them that like they're the next best thing. And you know, the flip side is that there are a few music supervisors that will say, send me unsolicited emails, send me that type of stuff. I will listen to it. That's totally different. And if you know that to be true, party on, send it to them. But I would also make sure that you do your homework before you send it and say, hey, I noticed in the scene in this movie that you picked this music. Can you tell me why you made that choice? You know, because it shows that you're like taking the initiative, number one, but also you're respecting the fact that they're another person on the other side of it. You know,
Yeah.
it's not, it shows them that it's not all about you. You
Right.
know, you're making that effort. And so that's the other thing is for the most part with LinkedIn, you don't know if people are going to be receptive to your music. And so an easy thing to do is just say, hey, like you know, you and I connected.
Yeah.
I think I just kind of said, hey, how are you? What's going on or whatever. And then you just kind of let the other person kind of lead. And personally, I would not send them unsolicited music. You know, again, if they ask, great. And here's the thing, keep in mind, if they've accepted you as a connection, chances are they've probably already been to whatever links that you have to your music on your profile. And
Right.
chances are, if they're interested, they'll tell you, hey, I heard this song. I like that quality in your voice or whatever. And if they say nothing, it probably means, you know, for whatever reason, your music at this point in time, you know, may not be the good fit that
Right.
they're looking for. But don't give up hope, because I just can't even tell you what it's like to work with a collaborator, because just having the right collaborator and or producer can bridge that gap for you. And so you can, let's say 6 months down the line, maybe if you know you have a song that sounds just like the song that they placed in our last film, then hey, say, you know, I think if you've kind of been respectful, you may say, hey, I have the song that we just produced, and it sounds a little bit like that vibe that you had in the scene in this movie. I'm just wondering, you know, what you thought or whatever. You know, that would be okay, I would think, depending on the person that you are sending it to, of course. I mean, and then some folks, if you send them an email and you know no response, then you know that they're not open to engaging at this time. So
Yeah.
uh,
No, I'm very, very good advice. And yeah, I mean, the key is to be respectful, kind of, and I really like the advice that you give of yeah, not sending unsolicited emails, and that is probably not going to get answered. Trying to think about different ways of engaging that, you know, that's more personal. That's you know, I think that's really, really good advice. And so another thing that I wanted to talk with you about is I know that a lot of artists, and this is more of you know, artists that are like you know, making music that's not for movies, that are you know, songs, and you know, and a lot of them are kind of doing a lot of like virtual concerts, and a lot of you know, music like that, a lot of internet offerings. We're seeing a lot of lessons, you know, to do like guitars and whatever, you know. And I know you had a friend that is now also doing an online offering as well. What advice do you have for artists that are, you know, creating online offerings or doing virtual concerts? Is there anything you're seeing that is working in terms of, you know, getting that going?
Well, I myself am not the greatest person to ask, but I will
Yeah.
share the advice that my friend Andrea, who
Okay.
has the Instagram Mind Body Music, has given me,
Mm-hmm.
is first of all, make sure that when you make a recording, that the sound quality is decent.
Mm-hmm.
And she does all of her own recordings, and so she has to be mindful of that, and she is. So she really makes it a point to make sure that the sound, doesn't sound like a second grader recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, you have to be authentic. So, and one thing that, she's kind of inspired me, and since I last spoke to her, I've been better about, tending to my social media. And so, she really does a great job of kind of documenting her process as an artist. So for her, she is a sound healer, and she works with people and animals. And so if you go to her Instagram, there's this amazing clip. There's more than one, but the most recent one was where she took out this beautiful harp, and she's like playing it for like a horse. And then another instance, there was like a duck. There's a duck that comes to her back porch every day, and so she will, play for the duck, and then, film it and put it up on Instagram, and people just love that. And so I would say, don't be afraid to be authentic and share that type of thing. Another tip that I found just kind of on my own is if you have a sound as an artist that sounds similar to another artist, then you would want to follow other artists on Instagram, because their fans will then follow you.
Oh. Yeah, that's very good advice. Very, very good advice. And so, have there been any? I know, again, you know a lot of artists. Have there been any virtual concerts that you've attended that you've, as far as, because I'm wondering how artists are, how they can create that experience, of being at a conference and being at a concert. You live in Austin, and that's the music capital of the world, right? Live music capital of the world. How are artists creating that experience, online? What are your thoughts as far as that?
Well, I myself, I've done just one offering, and it was through this place called Celebration Circle.
Okay.
And so that particular venue is actually based in San Antonio.
Okay.
And before COVID, it was, we had to travel to San Antonio. We'd usually spend the night. And post COVID, they asked us if we wanted to join them. And so we did. And it was fun. It was a blast. But I will say, a difference in, obviously performing live, whether it's online or whether it's like in person, there's always a glitch that will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's just like a different set of things that are nerve wracking. So performing online, like the last time we tried to get together, we had no internet,
Right.
So it's just like little hiccups like that happen. And I think you just have to acknowledge that it's going to come with that. So if you do perform and you want to perform online, then I would make sure that you just do a dry run beforehand, so that you know what the technology is. I mean, you'd be surprised how just something as little as like a mic cable can shift the sound, and you take for granted it's going to sound a certain way. But you had also asked me, like, what was a concert that I attended. It really kind of stuck out was, of course, you probably have heard of Willie Nelson,
Right.
the famous country singer / songwriter from Texas that we all love.
Right.
He every year, he has this gathering on the Thursday before the festival of South by Southwest.
Oh, okay.
And so it's this really cool lineup. Typically, it's all these amazing artists, and a lot of them are up and coming, but a lot of them are established. And so it's an amazing experience. However, it's extremely exclusive. Okay. And so normally, unless you know someone, you know, the tickets, you're not going to necessarily be able to come by. However, with COVID, literally the week that COVID happened was when South by was supposed to happen in Austin. And so Willie Nelson and his team made this amazingly wise decision, in my opinion, to put the whole concert online and make it a free offering. And I'm not sure if you look on the website if it's still there, but they kept it up for about a week, and it was about 6 hours of content.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was really cool because you were actually like in the living room of some of your favorite artists, you know, in live time. So that was, to me, that was a real treat.
Okay, no, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. And yeah, I hope that it is up there, because I definitely would want to check that out. Because I think that this is the time for artists to really get close to their you know, their fans, their followers, right? Take you know, be in the living room and show them their, you know, how you live, and kind of talk about personal stories. What are your thoughts as far as how artists can kind of get close to their followers, fans, you know, during these you know, crazy times?
Well, I would say don't be afraid to show the human side of yourself, you know, and just also, you know, be present to what shows up. You know, a lot of us are dealing with a lot of emotional issues right now because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so, you know, just be aware of that, you know. It just requires a little bit more, I would say, presence. And I would also encourage people to cultivate compassion towards others. You know, a lot of us are being financially challenged, and so I wouldn't necessarily take it personal if somebody isn't going to sign up for your event for, you know, a $10 ticket, because that $10 could be putting gas in someone's car. You know, we don't know where people are right now. So I would just say, you know, don't make assumptions, but still keep putting yourself out there, and share your own authenticity with others.
Yeah,
And
no, I
people,
love it. No, go
you
ahead.
know,
I apologize for cutting you up. I'm sorry.
oh no, I was just gonna say, because you know, I'm sure, you know, I'm not gonna name names, but I'm sure between the two of us, we could kind of name artists that we feel like are just kind of putting off this image, and compare that to artists that we know we just connect to them on such a heart level, such a like a deeper connection, and it's nothing that they necessarily say or do specifically, other than you just know that they're like being real.
Right. Yeah. No, being genuine is I mean, I think we all have a pretty good you know, sense of real and genuine, and you know, I think that, yeah, as an artist, you want to convey that. You want to be personal, you want to be genuine, authentic, like you were saying. So wow, Jaynee, this has been really, really good. Where can people find out more about you and what you got going on?
Well, you know, for now, we do have my website, which is www.jayneemusic.com. And so we don't really have any current online offerings, but if people want to visit, they'll at least get an idea of the flavor of our music and our continued musical direction. Also, I'm on Instagram at my name, Jaynee Muses, all one word. And so please feel free to follow me on Instagram. And then, you know, from there, you might find other folks like my friend Andrea, who has her own Insta, Mind Body Music as well. So
Cool.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you wanted to say hi to Thomas. Oh, he's a little shy. He's kind of sitting over there. He's like, oh, I don't know.
Okay.
But I also just wanted to give a quick shout out. This would not be possible without Thomas because he's recording us and recording my vocals, and he's currently studying with a producer in LA. So I would encourage other folks that if you want to do this, just know that if you have a family member that is really tech minded, maybe they want to, study to become a music producer, and they can help record your music for you.
Yeah, no, I love it, and we're gonna have links to everything that you said, and yeah, I know. I think that this again is the time to be learning. As a musician, you want to be developing your skills, right, and learning about producing and become a better songwriter. A lot of things that we could be learning, and I think this is the time to do that. So we will thank you so much, Jaynee, for teaching us so much, giving us a lot of really good information and insight. I really enjoyed this talk that we had, and yeah, hope you guys did as well. And we'll see you next time. All right,
Okay,
bye,
sounds
guys.
good.